Welcome to You Got to Laugh to Keep from Crying. My name is O.W. Sweeney, and I'm the co-host of You Got to Laugh to Keep from Crying. But I also want to introduce my co-host, my brother, my friend, my old friend, because he's my brother for a long time, 30, 40 years, Richard Courts.
Yes.
How you doing today, my brother?
And I don't look quite as old.
Hey.
As the audience is going to expect.
That's right.
After that introduction.
That's right. That's right. So,
good to see you, brother, as always.
That's right.
And we want to say,
as always,
North Carolina. No.
Lies out of spring. That's the closing. Let's start off at the beginning.
North Carolina Triad Jobs with Justice.
Where you can reach us at
336-272-2758 or
email
at NC Triad Jobs with Justice at gmail.com.
And we're going to, since we have the privilege of having a old friend with the rest of them, I haven't been knowing Mark as long as I've been knowing Richard. No, I haven't been knowing Mark as long as Richard has been knowing Mark. They go back a little bit further, but not too much further, because
it's been a long time.
We all come together under the heading of fighting for the people, working people especially. So we're having another show with our brother, Mark Dimondstein.
Great to be here again.
That's right.
With my two fighters for justice, Rich and O.W.
That's right. And since we're almost continuing from the last show, we're going to let you start off with what you want to say on the show.
Well, I think that we're in a moment right now in this country with really a fascist regime in the White House.
I just want to correct you on one thing. Take that thing out.
We're in a dangerous time. Right. And part of the way that these authoritarian fascists are going to try to stay in power, as anti-people as they are,
right,
is to set the clock back on voting rights. And while voting is, the rights are never as full as they should be in this country, we still have gerrymandering, we have Citizens United,
right,
and corporate money in politics, and all that. But fundamentally, voting rights is a hard-fought, bloody fought, particularly during the civil rights movement, but also the women's suffrage movement that went on for decades, to win the right to vote. And Donald Trump and his enablers, and he's got far too many of them from Congress and the media and the oligarch billionaires and these universities and these law firms and so on, they're really on a course now to set the clock back on voting rights. And Trump himself has said that if we get this, for instance, the Save America Act, and we'll talk about that a little more, the MAGA forces, as they call themselves, will be in power for another 100 years. That's how seriously they're taken. That's what Trump has said.
Right.
And they mean it. So we have to be just as serious.
And those are the forces, let's remind our viewers, that on January 6th, 2021,
staged a coup.
Staged
a violent coup.
Staged a coup and were very nearly successful.
Right. So we have a... Go ahead, O.W.
I think one swipe of a pen really wiped all that way out when Donald Trump would pardon all those people.
On the first day of his next term.
The first day of his second term.
Right.
And people still believe in him, not knowing that when he did that, he actually said that he don't give a damn about you.
Right. Or your country.
Right. So we're facing now. We're in a moment now where you got a growing and pretty darn powerful No Kings movement, the indivisible. You have a lot of the labor movement, of which I've been a proud leader of before I retired, but still obviously involved. We've all been together, part of the union movement that endorsed No Kings. My own union, the American Postal Workers Union, endorsed the No Kings march demonstrations. And now you have midterms coming up. And these authoritarian you-know-whats are worried, and should be.
Yes.
And then you have the recent elections that you've talked about on your show,
Yes.
where militant Democratic, Socialist, Allied, or members
People who fight
running
for issues
on
for the people.
issues that are running on affordability and Medicare for all and living wages, actually performing better than mainstream corporate Democrats, some of who have been in office for a long
Repeat that
period of time.
mainstream Democratic part again. That
Corporate
mainstream
Democrats.
Okay.
So what's happening now, we have to be, what's going to happen in the midterms? So we have to be ready to defend the right to vote, and we have to be ready to defend the midterms. I'm not talking about who we're voting for. I'm talking about to defend the election itself. Because there's a serious question
Yes.
of whether this dictator named Donald Trump will declare some kind of false national emergency and say, we're not going to have an election. I mean, he declared a false emergency in relation to bombing Iran. It was a fraud, right? It was like the weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. But somehow there was national security and the national emergency involved, and they had to then go bomb, completely unprovoked, but to take the oil and other things, a country on the other side of the world, a country with a longer history than the United States. And then we're all postal people. And part of the attack of Trump and his world on voting rights is to attack the post office and to attack vote by mail. Something that works, increases participation at the polls, gives people access to the ballot box, especially during time, not just, but think of the pandemic. 65 million people voted by mail in 2020. We did that as postal workers, and the people won that through the post office by having a public post office that belongs to them. And now vote by mail is under attack. But before I go into that, I'm sure you two are going to jump in with some things.
I just want to also kick in that not only is vote by mail being attacked, but the Postal Service itself is being attacked. And the people need to understand that if they destroy the United States Postal Service, a part of you is going to be hurting bad, because the United States Postal Service don't get to choose who and where they can go. They got to service every single solitary address, even way back up at the mountaintop where nobody's living. If they send a letter there, the Postal Service must deliver it.
And right now, that includes a mail ballot.
That's
but
right.
that's up for grabs right now.
That's right.
So if I can inject, unless you want to inject
No,
first.
I can wait.
March 31st, Trump issued an executive order to limit vote by mail. Now, remember, railing against the so-called stolen election of 2020 in Donald Trump's terms, what he used was the vote by mail was fraudulent. Absolute fabrication. There's absolutely no evidence. It's just a big lie told over and over again.
And courts that even with Trump appointees as their judges, all ruled against
everything.
Either 60 out of 61 or maybe, I think there was one on a technicality, but all the rest ruled that there was no fraud in that election. There was no evidence of any kind of, in fact, Trump's own appointee as the head of that election said it was the cleanest election that there'd been.
So what this executive order mainly will do, if it's fully implemented, and right now it still stands, even though some initial courts have said, you can't do this, but then we have something called the Supreme Court that basically will have
the one that's owned by the billionaires.
The one that's owned by the billionaires, right? But what it basically demands is that the states turn over all voter information to the federal government. Well, guess what? That doesn't belong to the federal government. The Constitution of the United States authorized and empowered the states to administer their own elections. And voter information also has private information. Whose business is it of how one is registered to vote? Whose business is it of how they voted? Right? It's a secret ballot.
Mark, I just want to interject that our viewers will remember when Trump called on the Republican Secretary of State of Georgia to find Trump the magic number of ballots so that he would be able
Win
to
the state of
overturn
Georgia, right?
the state of Georgia. So he should have been imprisoned then.
That's right.
Basically, after being
For-
given a fair trial. But he should have been, a fair trial would have put him in prison then, and he'd still be there now, because the Secretary of State, Raffensperger, taped that recording
Right.
where Trump
Open-
basically
open attempt at fraud.
was written, and he's the one who's constantly talked about the Democrats rigging elections, but he's actually been proven to have attempted to rig the elections in so many ways. Alternate electors appointed in Michigan and attempted in Georgia as well, and so on. And you name it, Trump's already attempted it to rig the election, and when he couldn't do that, then he led the MAGA thugs in the assault on the Capitol. So we know who's about rigging elections, and that's why I have to share your concern, Brother Mark, in the idea that, and yours, O.W., that the idea of whether there's going to be an election, and if there is an election, whether there'll be a state of an emergency, which Trump seems to be laying the basis for in a place like the Atlanta area, and in that county where they seized ballots from the last election and so forth. It's kind of interesting because some of the cases that the Trump forces have tried to continually have, like on the 2020 election, the expiration date is over. So they're not going to, they can't have those cases if there's no possibility of there being any jurisdiction for a criminal trial. So that's how long it's been now. It's ancient history, but they're still using that big lie to threaten the integrity of the 2026 election itself.
So this executive order gets worse, though, because now the post office, top management of the post office, not the postal workers, not the people.
The Postmaster General.
The Postmaster General, David Steiner, and the Post Office Board of Governors, at least with their acquiescence, and they're supposed to be the policy makers of the Postal Service, have proposed new rules in subservience to the Trump executive order that the states have to turn over the voter information, and if not, just as the executive order says, that mail will not be processed and delivered.
Yeah.
And you just raised, O.W., we go everywhere. That's our mission.
That's right.
And that is a fundamental attack on the basic mission of the Postal Service that belongs to the people. Move everybody's mail, whatever they're mailing, all the time, on time, and wherever they live.
And above all, it's an attack on the workers themselves.
And it's an attack, a direct attack on voting rights. Vote by mail, election mail, is a way to vote that's become ever more popular, safe, secure, on time, and again, increases voter participation, which is a good thing. And so this is to have the storied and trusted Postal Service, to have a PMG that instead of resisting this anti-people effort on the part of Donald Trump and his cohorts, they're jumping on the bandwagon. Shame on the Postal Board of Governors. You haven't heard anything in the press, and not one of them has opposed this move. Now, there have been thousands of responses to the posting around these proposed changes, but are they going to stop? It doesn't seem it. And the Postal Service itself, the bond with the people is key. And what more important bond with the people is to take your choice at the ballot box and not deliver it. So this is a dangerous thing, and people should call the Congress people, they should write letters to the editors, they should get involved and make sure that the Postal Service is not allowed to become a tool. This Postmaster General is not allowed to make it a tool to suppress our votes.
And a lot of people don't realize, but until the pandemic, most of the people who voted by mail was Republicans.
Yeah,
It's a stark fact.
Right.
But because during the pandemic, people couldn't go or do as they wanted to do, a massive number of people got the idea, and a lot of them were Democrat, to vote by mail. So Donald Trump wants to get rid of that vehicle to fight him. Because once you start voting, Democrats start voting by mail against his policies, then he can't go nowhere. But the most important thing you got to do is to get out and vote for somebody who's going to fight for you.
And against
the oligarchs and the fascists.
Against all those people who tell you they're doing good things for you, but I'm going to have to use this OJ quotes again. They're telling you how good they're doing for you, but as soon as you turn your back, they got a knife going to you.
the backstabbers.
The backstabber, that's correct. and people have to watch out for them. That's why these social democrats who's popping up around the country and speaking the truth, because they're tired of the old Democratic. I mean, let's look at the fact. When Kamala Harris ran for president the last time, she didn't bring up no issue, from my point of view, or what I've heard, that she brought up when she was running for president against Biden. When she was in a Democratic primary for the presidency, she was talking about $15 raise. She was talking about a whole lot of things for people. But then she went after Biden and took up his agenda, and the people didn't see none of what she was talking about.
Yeah, because his agenda,
which
was the same as Trump's, it was the same as Schumer's, it was the same as...
but it was nothing for me. It never really said anything for the people.
It was against the people of the world, starting with the people of Palestine.
Yes.
And they brought in Netanyahu, who, if there was anyone that was a bloodier force than Trump,
oh shit,
it was Netanyahu. And they brought him in and had him address the Congress. So, and Kamala Harris didn't lift a finger to reach out to the thousands of pro-Palestinian and Palestinian-American people who were, and including Jewish youth, who were against the bloody state of Israel in that election period. So she modeled a situation where it was fine with her not to be president as long as she was defending the state of Israel. So that's some of what happened with that. But I think the question of the vote is the most important in many ways, but it's only one of the questions.
That's right.
Because there's all of these other ways, including the possibility of another insurrection by the Trump MAGA forces, and that's why you saw the slush fund attempt, which has still not been abandoned by the acting Attorney General of the United States. The slush fund of $1.8 billion to pay the thugs that attacked the Capitol and attempted to lynch both Nancy Pelosi, the third representative to the presidency as the Speaker of the House at the time, and
don't forget his own vice president.
And his own vice. That's who I was going to next. And his own vice president, who Mike Pence, who was the next to Trump in line for the presidency at the time. So these are the kinds of atrocities that are serious threats to even having an election. And so I'm glad that you're on it, that we're trying to rally the people to fight against voter suppression and against the suppression of the election coming up.
We need to talk a little bit about this fiasco, this made-up, trumped-up Iran situation.
Well, yeah, I think that the war against Iran, the war against Iran,
and the war against the American workers.
Right. That. Well, we could hear from Mark. Mark was the person that led us when he used to be in Greensboro in founding the labor was it Labor for Peace? Is that what North Carolina?
North Carolina, labor against the war.
North Carolina
At that time,
labor
it was
against the
the
war at that time.
Afghanistan and Iraq.
Right. And so it'd be good if you would give us some of your insight about this situation with Iran and Trump.
We talked about it a little bit already, but to go into it a little more, this is about oil. It's about oil, sea lanes, and commerce, and so on. But it's also about diverting the people of this country from the inaffordability crisis,
Right.
the economic galloping inequality,
Right.
the billionaire oligarchs controlling so much of our lives,
Including the control of the Epstein files and the Epstein crimes.
The crimes
that all of these people participated in.
The whole Doja tax on the rights of the people and benefits that the people need, the big, quotes, beautiful bill, the really big, ugly bill that denies people medical coverage, denies hungry people food benefits, all of these things. So now all of a sudden, we got a big enemy over here we got to deal with. So instead of uniting with each other's working people and dealing with the regime here that needs to be changed, let's go deal with we need to unite here behind a regime change somewhere else. There's no credible or proven threat to the United States of America from the Iranian country.
Right.
But Trump fabricated, much like the Bush-led forces and the media all got in line around Iraq, the weapons of mass destruction that never existed.
Right.
And neither did
all was a mass destruction order now.
That's right. It was mass destruction against the people of Iraq.
That's right.
But then they always go to the working class people here to go kill and be killed working class people everywhere for the oil money and the profits. And right now, and the war on the people economically, the inflation, the gas prices, those are a direct product now of this Trump-led and really Netanyahu-led
Netanyahu led Trump on this one.
War against Iran.
Don't forget the tariffs now. I'm starting to sound like you, brother.
So it's
don't forget those tariffs.
It's an imperialist war for control over resource, control over transportation, and the working people there in Iran and other parts of the world, and the working people here are the ones that these oligarchs want to pay the price. And the labor movement needs to speak up better than they have, opposing their own government when it comes to these kind of attacks on national sovereignty of other countries. We don't have to agree or not agree with a particular government, but we do agree with self-determination and sovereignty.
Right. I wanted to spend the last 5 minutes of this show discussing your involvement now as the president of the Eugene Victor Debs Foundation out in, I think it's Terre Haute, Indiana, where he was a native son and a great labor leader. And he went to jail under the Democratic Woodrow Wilson government, the fascistic Wilson government that was led then by Attorney General, wasn't it, A. Mitchell Palmer at that point. And so I'd like you to discuss how Debs went from being a Midwestern white Christian conservative trade unionist, just to give our viewers a little taste of sometimes what it takes to create a great labor leader, which is what Debs ended up being.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's worth adding that this is the 100th commemorative year of his death. He died in 1926. So Debs came out of the railroad worker side of the unions. He was pretty darn conservative originally. He was a well-known, I think he served at one term in the Indiana State Legislature. People were talking about him because he was a great orator about maybe being a presidential candidate at some point. Little did they know. And he supported Grover Cleveland for president, Democrat at the time. And then Debs ended up in leadership of the historic Pullman strike, which was defeated by the federal government intervening. And Pullman was a company town, and it was the railroad workers around the country supporting the workers in the factories of Pullman
That made those changes.
that made the trains.
Right.
So there was the rest of the workers stopping the country in defense of the workers in the factories in Pullman, which is right near Chicago. And so that's right. So once Debs and the workers went through the experience of being sold out by the presidential candidate in the U.S. government that he supported, he drew the right lesson. The workers needed an independent path to politics. He has a great quote. I don't have it in my head exactly, but when workers unite in the same union and the same political party, the world will be ours. And he was talking about a different political party than existed. So he became a great militant trade unionist, part of the formation of the International Workers of the World at one point, and he became a fervent advocate of independent politics. Ran 5 times on the Socialist Party of the United States. 1912 got 6% of the vote, and in 1920 from prison, Richard Swayze, he went to prison under the Espionage Act of Woodrow Wilson for opposing a war. And that doesn't mean no war shouldn't be fought or have to be fought, but for opposing a war that needed to be opposed
by the workers of the world.
Workers of the world who were sent to kill each other for the benefits of their robber barons at the time.
So that freedom of speech thing was thrown out.
It was
absolutely thrown out. He made a speech in Canton, Ohio, and he was sent to jail for a 10-year prison sentence behind it. He served 3 before he was let out at that time. So he has a lot of relevance for today. Militant democratic trade unionism. He believed in bottom-up unionism. He had a saying that when I rise, meaning the leader, when I rise, it's not going to be from the ranks, it's going to be with the ranks. That means we're going to rise together. In terms of the war, opposed unjust imperialist war, very relevant for today. In terms of independent politics and the issues that he ran on as the Socialist Party candidate. Union rights, women's rights, end of child labor, these kind of issues that move the working class, just like issues that we have to stick to the issues today that move the working class. So it's
and Debs believed, I'm reading now something that just came out, Debs believed socialism was the natural evolution of Jesus' teachings, aiming to replace a capitalist society ruled by greed with an international and cooperative commonwealth where people shared in the fruits of their labor.
Amen.
Now, after reading that, read this piece right here. I can't read too good.
Socialism is the fire department saving your house. Capitalism is the insurance company denying your claim.
Thank you.
And with that, let us remember, brothers, in our unity lies our strength.